you feel a sense of like, oh, this guy is like a true Mr. West Ham and like John Terry for Chelsea.
Oh, don't compare him to John Terry, please. Don't compare anyone to John Terry. But yes, I take the point.
Yeah, you take the point. Mark Noble doesn't shag people's wives, but
yeah. Allegedly. Welcome to part 2 of this week's episode of Yahoo Footballing Weekly, where we talk all things local and regional football with me, Yahoo columnist Neil Humphreys.
And me, Yahoo editor Chia Keong. And him, Eddy, Lion City Sailors fan.
Hello.
Rare breed, man.
Brilliant. He's got a great blog on the Lion City Sailors. He writes regularly. Yeah, right here. Exactly here. He writes regularly on the Lion City Sailors. He covers it. If we had more local fans like this man beside me, we wouldn't need this podcast, basically. Because
why don't we just start? Why do you start off this blog about Lion City Sailors?
I think there's a lack of mainstream media coverage for very obvious and understandable reasons. And also fan coverage, I think there's not enough. Like if you talk about Arsenal, there's so many blogs covering Arsenal. So many good quality blogs, good quality radio shows. But for local football, there are very few. So I thought if you want to see something and it's not happening after years, then do it yourself. So I decided to do it myself.
So how did, I mean, obviously now you have a blog. Does it attract the fans from other fan clubs have blogs also, or do they have?
I think a lot of them have like smaller Instagram presences, or rather bigger Instagram presences, but not so much long form content like writing articles or doing long videos. They do very interesting things, like they edit clips of players and all that. And I think it all starts somewhere. These are things that actually I like to watch also. Funny memes sometimes from other fans, and it's growing. It's very small, but it's growing. And with more investment from the top, hopefully all these people can really find their own space within the little Singapore footballing landscape. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, here's the thing that I've discovered doing this for half a season now, half a EPL season, is that latent support is still there, just below the surface. We've got so many comments. Again, thank you. We're going to go through them shortly. This guy is now he's turned into the Harry Styles of football broadcasting. He's now getting stopped by fans, stalkers, what is it?
Everybody.
Groupies?
They're like, hey, I watch your show. I watch your podcast.
You went to the Community Shield, right?
Yeah, I went to the Community Shield, and there I was about to rush off to start filing my story, and then suddenly I was stopped by 2 very enthusiastic youngsters, and then I was like, I don't recognize you, but then, you're the Yahoo guy. You're the Yahoo guy on the podcast, right? Thanks very much. And obviously, I realized they are supporters of this podcast. Shook hands with them. Shout out to y'all, those 2 youngsters. Thanks so much. You brightened up my day, even though I was in a rush and didn't stop to talk to y'all. But
this is why he didn't invite me to the game. He could dominate the attention.
Forgot, okay.
I was very busy with my daughter. I specifically asked him to remind me because I know he's not my secretary, but I'm very busy and I forget things. And he reminded me 20 minutes into the game. What am I supposed to do about it? He made me feel terrible. So I quickly put it on YouTube. Meanwhile, he's telling me he's got groupies hanging off of every stand of the stadium.
I did not say that.
He did say that. I'm exaggerating. But we will be there. We will be a regular presence once the season kicks off.
Really, thank you. Just in a half a season, to get some fans stopping you all, it's always a good thing. And thanks to all of your support, we can still get great comments.
Brilliant. Let's get into them now. Right, first one. Andy Koo, thank you, Andy, says, please continue with your podcast. Hopefully those people in the FAS can wake up their ideas. All right. First point, thank you, Andy. Sincerely, that's a really kind thing to say. The second point, I just wanted to correct one thing. There's this myth that we just want to whack FAS and we want to whack local officials and we get more mileage out of it if we do that. That could not be more wrong. And I want to make this clear. I did a radio show before and an official said, you'll be very happy. As long as there's controversy, you'll get lots of hits. And I've said this 1,000 times. I've been writing for 25 years. By far, the one column I wrote, which I wrote in 20 minutes flat, was the most viral thing I've ever written. It got 60,000 shares within an hour. Shares, not reads, within an hour. And it was because it was Joseph Schooling. It was nothing to do with me. It was because Joseph Schooling had won the gold medal. It was success. Controversy attracts attention. Controversy sells, sure, but not half as much as success. So, for example, if Singapore produced an Asian superstar like Sun Hong-min, we could all retire already because we'd have millions of hits, millions of views, millions of this, millions of that, because we had Singapore's equivalent of Sun Hong-min. Success sells way more in the long term than controversy. So this idea that we're just here to whack is not. We're not anti this or anti that. We're pro football.
Absolutely, and I totally agree. We started by praising the Fandi brothers.
Yeah, where's the statue, by the way?
Where's the statue, by the way? And then, slowly, I mean, there are issues, definitely there are issues in Singapore. And it's good to talk about it so that people are aware of some, and then we can attract opinions and whatever to talk to us, and now via our podcast. And then we tell it to people, and then, that's what we aim to do. There's this place where you can we can listen to opinions, and then we can listen, and then eventually we can hopefully get something going. For example,
we can disagree agreeably.
Yeah,
that's
we can
what
disagree agreeably. Exactly. As for the next two comments we have, they're fans giving suggestions to improve the state of football in Singapore, and that is what we want. For example, John comes in and says, one very easy and obvious way, put more fans in the bloody stadium. It's not fans, it's fans.
Yeah.
Okay, more fans for more fans. Okay, it's such a hot and uncomfortable affair to watch the matches that fans stay away, especially not for such standards of football. We are not Europe where the ambient air alone can be comfortable enough. Okay, wake up, FAS.
All right, I'll wait on that one. You're a regular Lion City Sailors fan. You go every game. What are your thoughts about the temperature? I never thought I'd be sitting there talking about the temperature of a stadium, but okay.
All right.
What do you think about the fans, having fans?
No, I don't think the idea is a bad one. But
No.
I don't think it's that hot as well. Especially because, unlike in European games where you're packed like sardines in a can.
Correct.
There aren't that many fans. So you kind of can spread yourself out. But yeah, I mean, it's not a bad idea. It's a why not. It's a why not. It's not terribly expensive.
Exactly.
You get some fans in, some electric fans in. I think it's a good idea, yeah.
I mean, I sweat a lot.
We all do. It's the tropics.
So I don't mind fans. Exactly like you said, big fans on there. Yeah, wow, cool. But it's not that hot. Exactly. I mean, when I go to Jalan Besar, in case you don't know, the media booth is on the 4th floor, which is the highest floor, and I have to walk up and down every time, and I pant myself, and already starting to sweat even before the things there. But you just sit down for a while. There's a chilly kind of, there's a cool kind of draft going on. You get cooled down easily. So I mean. In effect, it's in the evenings. The matches are largely in the evenings. So, yes, fans are okay, but I don't think they should be the main drawing point of fans. Like, you wouldn't expect SPL to say, "Come here for the fans."
Yeah, exactly. Exactly that point. Exactly. I think there's a fine line here that we have to be very careful about crossing. I agree. When we had Daniel Bennett on the show, late kickoff times, no-brainer. If they can do it in La Liga, I don't see why we can't do it here. There is absolutely no need for matches to be kicking off in the afternoon or early evening in Singapore. No match should kick off in Singapore until the sun has gone down. I don't know why we haven't mandated that, so I agree with that. But this idea that fans will only go to the stadium if there are industrial fans to cool us, that makes us sound like an entitled air-conditioned nation a little bit.
Which we are.
Right? Which we are. Let's be honest here. In the 60s and 70s, when they were packed like sardines into Kallang, watching the Malaysia Cup, I don't think anyone was complaining about the humidity, right? There were 70,000 bodies sweating in a non-air-conditioned, non-fan stadium. No one complained. And it made me think of 1991 I saw West Ham play Aldershot in the worst game in living memory. It was 0-0 when West Ham were playing in the old 4th division.
Ooh.
It was -5 degrees in January. It was so cold, guys. At one point, I was a teenager. At one point, I seriously considered peeing myself just to warm my legs. That is how cold it was. But you still go.
Yeah.
You can't just look at the weather forecast when you decide to go to a game or not. It's not about fans or heating or air conditioning. It's about football culture. It's about, I'm going to support my team. He's going down to the Line City Sailors no matter what. Hot, cold, wet, dry. That's what we should be getting, a football culture.
Exactly.
But fans, okay. But then what? You need aircon?
Yeah.
You need free curry puffs? You need someone to give you a halftime massage? Where does this end? Where does it end? But
Although the next one, I think that next one might have more of a point. This guy, Balbinder Daliwal, thanks for sending in. Merchandise ideas, umbrellas and handheld fans. Scarves are not too hot for this climate.
Yeah.
Now this one I sort of could accept.
yeah,
it.
I agree that. I mean, when I said last week, I mentioned the flag and the scarf. I wasn't literally saying it had to be a scarf. I was just talking about merchandise generally.
Yeah, but traditionally everybody wants to like buy a scarf. It's kind of like a standard football merchandise. But here you go, umbrellas and handheld fans. I thought, oh yeah, why didn't we think of that, right? I mean,
Yes, Eddie, we'll get your view, but nothing strikes football hardcore supporters more than, 5,000 burly fans going zzz. Come on, what are we, old ladies? We're aunties at the coffee shop?
what? Then put out a flag like that saying you never walk alone.
I don't know. I mean, what do you think, Eddie? Fine.
I think with merchandise, it's really anything goes. Right?
Yeah.
Anything goes, and I've been telling the club, get those teddy bears out, get rubber duckies out, get all this stuff out to get the kids in, right? But for handheld fans and all that, I think, why not? It's always a why not.
So why not?
It's a why not. But for scarves, I guess it's a visual effect actually. The scarves, I mean, I have scarves and I don't use them on my neck in Singapore.
I've never used a
I'd be
scarf on my
insane.
neck.
Like
At any football match.
we just wave it in games, when we feel very happy or very.
And there's nothing like it, right? I've seen
It's
it at
nothing
World
like
Cups, I've seen it at Euros, EPL, locally, regionally.
Yeah.
When you're doing that whole helicopter thing with the flare, with the scarves, 30,000, a sea of these, twirling scarves. It's fantastic.
It's a fan. It's a fan.
It is a fan. There you go. He's cracked it. You don't need a fan. You've got a scarf. Twirl it. Very good. What have we got next?
Well, now we have a long one from Prabhu Sumugan. He gave a lot of pointers on how to improve football. So, increasing the fans' excitement by bringing in relegation promotion, that's a long time.
Okay, well, let's go through them one at a time. Relegation, promotion. I agree with him. Of course I do, because I do think professional football should have an element of jeopardy. It makes it exciting. As I would know, West Ham are in the bottom 3. So, yes, there should be an element of jeopardy. But you need a decent level of standard below, and we're not there yet. I think we need to bolster our main league first. What do you think?
The gulf is too huge, that's one.
There you go.
The second is that I think the local context is very different. So the Premier League clubs, right, the SPL clubs, they get a stipend or a grant from Singapore Pools, if I'm not wrong. So without this $800,000, $900,000, right, it's impossible to run a club in Singapore
and
to any standard.
The bottom NFL doesn't have it.
So unless you are suggesting that the bottom clubs get 500K, and I do want to see that, but how do they get that money?
I agree.
Who gives that money? And if not, right, if this 900,000 is going to be given to all these clubs only, even if they're relegated, the club that comes up, do they get the 900,000? And if they do, then you know what happens? The people in that club that just went down, they'll just have to seek their contracts from the club that just went up. So then you see player longevity is even worse than it is now. Like a player can literally, like Dan Bennett said in the previous episode, you should ask him which club he hasn't played for rather than has played for. And that's because there's no real player longevity in a certain team. Good point. That also, I think, hinders fandom. Because look at Mark Noble, for example. It feels so good to have a guy stay at the club for so long, I think. You feel a sense of this guy is like a true Mr. West Ham and like John Terry for Chelsea.
Oh, don't compare him to John Terry, please. Don't compare anyone to John Terry. But yes, I take the point.
Yeah, you take the point. Mark Noble doesn't shag people's
Jamie
wives,
Carragher.
but yeah.
Jamie Carragher.
Allegedly.
Jamie Carragher.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a bit difficult to implement that in Singapore.
Yeah.
So great idea in theory, but I hope that somehow someone cracks the code, because the jeopardy is necessary, I think. If not, you end up with so many dead rubber games.
Oh, yeah. That's the problem with SPL. Sometimes at the start, all the games are very very well contested, but once it gets to the middle part, when you know that there are some people that's going to win the league, and then the bottom play, the non important matches are so draggy to watch.
The two biggest gaps gulfs in British football is from the Premier League to the Championship because of the drop in TV revenue, and from league football to semi-league pro football, which is the National Football League that Wrexham currently plays in. You see how hard it is for even Wrexham, with all their money, to get out of that league because the gulf is so wide. I would argue the gulf is even wider, far wider, from the Singapore Premier League to every league below. Much, much wider, because they have almost no revenue in those leagues. So yes, we've got to bridge that divide first before we consider it. What's next? From our good friend Bravo.
The next point it puts is explain the rationale of shared grounds. We have sufficient stadiums in Singapore to fit all 8 localized teams respectively. Creating atmosphere starts with the community. And Albirex Niigata has done an excellent outreach. Have a separate own stadium to call home and create a community outreach to bring people together.
I mean, I'll leave it to you guys. I got nothing else to add. We've said it many times. I agree with every word he said.
Yeah.
I mean, I know why the teams are being moved around, stadium redevelopment, digital advertising boards have to be implemented. But I don't see why they shouldn't be based at one club.
Yeah, I agree. I think the current situation is it's a temporary thing, although it's very stretched out a couple of years already. But it's a part of the government's things to refurbish the stadiums, which do look old already, admittedly. So I hope that once all the stadiums are refurbished, you still have Choa Chu Kang Stadium, which used to be for the Warriors, but now it's empty. You could have a team there.
Yes.
Woodlands Stadium. If Woodlands Wellington continues to be unable to go back to it's still there. There are a couple of stadiums which we still can use to put each team into one proper stadium, and hopefully from what I heard is the upgrading should be done by this year, and maybe next season I think we have proper home grounds for each of the teams.
Which is why, Eddie, to bring in your Lion City Sailors, moving forward, and I know the FAS have spoke about this week, the private-public funding model has to be the way forward if we've got any chance of survival here. Because no disrespect to FAS, they're doing the best they can. Public funds are limited, and they always need to be allocated carefully, right? Yep. You can't just say, right, $1 billion on this stadium. It's never going to happen. So we have to get our heads out of the sand. For example, at Buangkok MRT, near where I live, this shopping mall seems to be built overnight. I mean, it's called Sengkang Green. Since COVID, it's just appeared because it's private funding. They're working on it 24/7. Meanwhile, you compare a shopping mall mushrooming out of the ground almost overnight towards a stadium redevelopment that could, in theory, be done in the off-season if you had that kind of private level of funding. Of course it could. A few perimeter advertising digital boards could be done in a matter of weeks. Lay a new pitch, build some new seats, build a new stand. Could easily be done in the off-season if you had a private-public model. You can't just expect the public to, constantly fork out for an Premier League stadium. That's the issue. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it comes down to funding at the end of the day. Could we have 8 stadiums, 10 stadiums with digital advertising boards, as you say? You can.
Of course you can.
Who's going to pay for it?
Yeah.
So I think the idea that FAS had would be to consolidate these into 4 or 5 stadiums. So you don't have to pay for so much of the infrastructure, like enabling high-speed internet for live streaming, and also all the perimeter boards, which increase commercial opportunities, and that's the official stance of FAS. And I couldn't agree more with Neil. I think you need money to make this happen on a wider scale, and that's actually why I think this fan is a bit upset. But that's why there's stadium sharing now. Hopefully, in future, when more money pours into the league, you won't see this anymore.
But I just want to bring up, he makes one final point. He said we should also improve the viewing experience of games on TV. Camera angles has always been an issue for many seasons. A better viewing experience generates interest among people. I'm going to, for once, side with the broadcaster on this because I watched the Community Shield, and a shout out to my old friend Colette Wong and Shazad and Chassis. I thought they all did a fine job. It was free. I mean, you're not paying for anything. There's no cable subscription involved. There's no streaming cost. You haven't got to download anything. You just click on YouTube. You watch it for free. Is it going to compare to the EPL? No.
But EPL
How much do you pay for the EPL? How much did you pay for the World Cup and the Euros? I think there's a little bit of hypocrisy here. You cannot expect the same level of quality of Western leagues, European leagues, international tournaments if you're not willing to pay for them, right? Considering the funding available, I think the local product is as good as it can possibly be. I watched it. I enjoyed it. Could it be better? Probably, yes, but it's free. I'm not sure what we're expecting.
And you know
here.
what's a better viewing experience?
Being
Going
in the
down to the
game.
stadium. Yes.
To the damn stadium. Yeah.
I think there's an infrastructure thing involved as well. So even in the 90s, actually, some people commented that the Singapore League coverage on TV, right, there was a nicer angles, had nicer angles actually, and the reason for that is simply money, because they built up the scaffolding on the other side of the pitch to get a high angle down to view the pitch. But I don't think right now it justifies. I mean, you could say it's chicken and egg, but I don't think right now the level of interest justifies building up a scaffold every time there's a live game in like Toa Payoh Stadium and beaming it down like that. So chicken and egg maybe. But
It is chicken and egg, but still I think we return to the old community bonding issue that we mention every week. Get the fans into the stadium, give away free tickets, get into local schools, beg them, steal them, make them go to the stadium, make it part of their CCA, do something, but think out of the box. Right, you live in Toa Payoh, schools 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This week you all have to go and watch Balestier.
So fear.
No, I don't care. If we can get the rah-rahs out for our bloody CDC and this and that, get them into the stadiums. Fill the stadiums first. To me, the other stuff is window dressing.
Yeah, fill the stadium and make the viewing experience ideal, fun. I mean, like we talked about it before the show. You know, get it closer, get the action closer to the.
Yeah, that's what you think, right? We should have the fans closer to the action.
So I think I raised Toa Payoh Stadium as a very good example. If you sit in the stands, actually you don't have a good view. It's not elevated. They're far away, they're separated by a track. It's terrible. But I think in Singapore we are civilized enough. We don't have a hooliganism problem. Is it not a possibility that we can explore safe standing for a bunch of hardcore supporters right next to the pitch? Right next to the pitch.
And for all the failings of the Jalan Besar pitch, at least it is very close to the fans.
Yes.
Yeah.
And always the atmosphere, if there's enough crowd there, the atmosphere is pretty good. And then in Jalan Besar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I mean, I grew up watching football at Upton Park, West Ham's old stadium, which was famously less than a metre from the touchline. It was genuinely intimidating for, visiting wingers. But it was volatile. It was a real cauldron. 30,000 sounded like 80,000. And at Jalan Besar, a couple of thousand can sound like 10,000 because it echoes around that one stand. So I agree 100%. If there is a way to physically get fans closer to the pitch, no-brainer.
Yeah.
No-brainer. All right, let's move on. Right, FAS president. You want to talk about this one? You put this one in.
So this is the start of the season this week. In case you don't know, the start of the SPL season. So naturally, the mainstream media paper has to do he has to go on to the mainstream media paper and do a State of the Union address.
State of the Union.
On the news season, we got good. Okay, fair enough. Good time. It's also his. I think. Last year he became the president, so you need to know what is his goal. So he gave a lot of ideas. There's a lot of, he said a lot of plans are underfoot. We plan to do this. We plan to improve the pipeline of youngsters. We need to have an academy accreditation system to more paperwork. But okay. There's some points they say naturalization of foreign players. They are thinking about it.
Okay.
Foreign investment in SPL. They might do it. A hybrid of private or public fundings, yes, is also in the things. So they are all ideas that, you think that, okay, they should improve local football. The thing I feel is that so many things are so many plans, but what is the plan to improve the actual football? These are all administration things that yes, you need to think about it, but right now the most pertinent point is still, I think, our standard of football is not there. I don't think compared to
I don't think any rational person would disagree with any of these points. They're all sensible, practical, reasoned points. But, and this is not a criticism, it's just a fact, I've been hearing these same points for 20, 25 years. It's executing them.
Yeah.
Which, no magic bullet. I don't know. It's executing these ideas, which again comes back to the point of investment and political and corporate will. Is there the political and corporate will to execute these plans? Through. In fairness to the FAS president, Bernard Tan, there's nothing wrong with these ideas. No. Is he going to get political and corporate backing?
Yes.
If he doesn't, we'll all be back here in next year saying exactly the same thing. Good ideas, but they weren't executed.
In 10 years, we'll be saying the same thing as well.
Which, to wrap it up, brings us nicely to the sailors, the public-private funding model, if you like, more private, obviously. But you're executing some of these things. You're bringing through players in the academies. You're sending players on scholarships. You're making a positive difference here.
Yeah, I think we can all list out all the problems we have with the local football model, the NS being one of them. So sailors came up, and I think there was coverage of how they look to get around that problem. So they send people to enlist early, and then after that, they put them on scholarships to do their football and all that. So you're right, it needs private funding to come in and do things like that to get around some very practical obstacles in the Singapore sporting scene. It's very difficult to say that, the government should do this. But yeah, the government, I mean, even as a huge football fan, don't I think the government should look after our elderly and our more disenfranchised, population, portions of the population first? Of course they should.
Yeah, I agree.
Why is sports so special? Why does sports or arts, why arts people are going to say, why are you funding football so much? Right? Even within sports, netball is going to say, hey, we are actually quite something on the global stage. Why aren't we getting money?
It's a balancing act.
Right? So it's a balancing act. And this is only going to tilt, right, when corporates start coming in. And you've seen, City Football Group has a slight interest in Keong now. Maybe this is like a testing period of sorts.
Messi, Qataris.
I don't think the government will really like that.
No. But I agree. Funding is the way. I think we should be putting more pressure on our big MNCs in this country. Why can't we have a McDonald's sponsoring this one and a Burger King sponsoring that one? Do they make enough money in this country, or Starbucks or a Coffee Bean? And the list is long, and we can go on forever. But again, it comes back to the corporate will. But let's wrap this up positively. New season upon us. Singapore Premier League. Let's go down the line. Let's have our predictions.
Who is going to win the league?
Yeah, why not? Let's have our predictions.
I mean, it's down to LB Rex or Lion City Sailors. And I watched LB Rex during the Community Shield. I don't think they are that good. They won 3-0, but I don't think they are as good as that 3-0 sounds. So I think if Lion City Sailors could get, they got a new coach, and then they got quite a lot of new players. There's a lot of players.
They need a balanced squad this time.
If they can somehow get that squad to gel, I don't see why they cannot overcome LB Rex.
I don't think you need to hear my prediction for this one.
Tell us why.
LCS to win simply because I think we have a lot of resources, and I think the players owe it to themselves to really make the most of what they have. The training facilities, the fact that they don't have to worry about, with their higher salaries, they don't have to worry about other things. Like some of the players in other clubs, they have to do Grab, they have to do Food Panda. Yes. LCS players don't have to do that, right? We have a very highly paid foreigner in Maxime Lestienne. We got the second top scorer from last season.
We got a wonderful academy place.
We have wonderful academy with some youngsters who should be making their debuts this year. So, I think it would be a disappointment if we don't win, but that, of course, depends a lot on how good Albirex is as well.
See, Eddie, I'm listening to you, and it must be a real moral crisis for you, because Lion City Sailors are not the Arsenal of Singapore. They are the Manchester City of Singapore. Hougang are the Arsenal of Singapore. So I'm going with Hougang. It's not going to happen, but the romantic in me, local side, neighbourhood side. Yes, I know they're playing at Jalan Besar this year, right?
Yeah.
So just for the fun of it, Hougang Hoolies for me. So you're going LCS, right?
I think
LCS, Hougang just for fun. What do you think?
Yeah.
Who's going to win the Singapore Premier League this season
Who
and
watched
why?
the matches?
See us there.
Yeah.
If you can get anywhere near him, because he gets mobbed now at every game he goes to, we will see all three of us at games this season and we will see you there. But before that, send all of your predictions and comments to
Yahoo Southeast Asia on YouTube, Yahoo SG, Yahoo_MY on Twitter, and Yahoo SEA on TikTok.
Thanks for coming, Eddie. Good luck to you
Yep,
and the
thank you.
Lion City Sailors.
Thanks for having me.
Keep on with the blog. Keep on with
Thank
the
you
blog.
very much.
Brilliant.
Yes.
Yeah, he's fantastic. And good luck to all of the teams competing in the Singapore Premier League this season. And we will see you at a live game very soon.